Hi.
Hello.
Okay, first, what to expect in this video. There's no scenery, no travel, it's just information. This video is literally a PowerPoint presentation. So if you're not planning to try to drive your car across China without a guide anytime soon, then just wait and we'll have a video on the Great Wall soon. That's our next video. Yeah.
Stay
So
tuned.
yes, stay tuned. People have been contacting us, mainly asking us how to get in touch with the travel agency that got us into China and didn't require a guide across the whole country. And we don't want to recommend that travel agency because, well, we had some real issues with them. Yeah, in our video series, we haven't gotten to the end of the trip when we're trying to get out of the country and then trying to get our deposit back. And also, there was that time in Warriors, remember when she was really upset? That was like the stuff video for the money stuff. Remember when
Was trivial.
she clipped me pulling out of the parking lot? She was so angry. And they did no apology, didn't even stop. Yeah. So,
We don't want our followers go through that company because obviously they're horrible at business with their customers, and we don't want you to experience the same with that same company.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but we might come up with another company, but we don't know. We don't have any plan for that.
Yeah. So we're hoping, what we're hoping is that people take the knowledge that it is legal to drive through China without a guide, and they find better agencies to get them in.
Yeah, don't buy agencies BS. They just want your money. They don't care. So best is you do your own research.
So if enough people do that, then we can blow this mandatory guide BS out of the water within a year. So usually, as soon as it's mainly me that people write because I'm doing the YouTube stuff and
Brains.
oh, you do all the driving, which I really appreciate. So usually, as soon as I tell people that we're not going to give them the agency's contact information, they just don't write me back ever again. They want a simple solution or nothing. And that's not getting the overland travel community any closer to finding better solutions. But maybe I haven't been helping either. So we thought that what we could do differently, like how could we answer this question differently? One thing we could try is sharing the paperwork side of what we did. The only reason we haven't done it sooner is that we don't know if it's going to have much of an audience. But we'll try a first video here today on how we prepared before we left, and we'll just see if anyone watches it.
And and traveling from Europe all the way to Southeast Asia is very possible and very not very difficult. It might be challenging, but it's not impossible or very difficult. So stay tuned.
If we can do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah.
All right. So here's a quick outline of what we'll do in this video. An intro on how we got the information before we left, how we got as much information as we could. The laws as we were told before we left. We'll let you know which of those we're pretty sure are not true, which we're pretty sure are true, and which we don't know yet. And then documents we needed for the car, documents we needed for the dogs. That's in its own section, so if you're not traveling with dogs, you can skip it. And then just a short bit at the end on what to do if you want more of this kind of information.
Yeah, I remember like last 4 or 5 months before we set off from Georgia, it was you sitting at the laptop trying to find lots of information.
I spent a lot of time at the computer. Yeah.
We spent lots of time. So
this could save you that.
yeah, that's research, and that's all that nights without sleep. I remember that too.
But keep in mind that we're not experts. We're telling you what we learned, and this is just the experience of 2 people and 2 dogs.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're in Kutaisi. We don't know what kind of documentation we'll need to have with us when we get to China. But everyone in the overlanding face groups says you have to use a guided tour agency to drive into China. We're going to try it without, but we want to get as much done, have as much with us as we can when we get there. So we're just start thinking, like, if those agencies, the fully guided tour agencies, if they earn a living bringing foreigners with their cars and sometimes their dogs into China, then what are they guaranteed to know? They're guaranteed to know what paperwork you need to drive your foreign car and possibly your dog into China, right? I mean, those are the experts.
Yeah.
So we contacted a company and we figured these are the possibilities. If the company is telling the truth, we said, we're interested in using your services to go into China. If the company is telling the truth, then so are we. If we can't get into China without a guide, then we'll go in with a guided tour led by that company. If the company is lying and we can legally cross China without a guide, then we're also lying. So the difference, as we saw it, was they're trying to play us for thousands of dollars, and we're trying to play them for a few hours of their time spent giving us information and checking our documents.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true, ethically, 2 wrongs don't make a right. But I'm sleeping okay at night. I'm not racked by guilt. Honey, are you racked by guilt?
No.
No, yeah, you're sleeping okay at night. All right. Sound like, all right. Okay. So here's what the fully guided tour agency said. They gave us a list of information about overland tours. I think there's 7 things on it. We'll go through them now. The first one, it says that you have to have a certified Chinese travel company apply for the necessary permits. And we don't have any evidence contrary to this because a Chinese travel agency did get us into the country. It also says in this paragraph that you have to submit all required documents approximately 1.5 months in advance. But even that agency admitted wasn't true. In a message from this same agency below, it says, I can put the little pointer thing on. This is a separate message from the same agency right here. They said just let us know 15 days before. And then the agency that actually got us in on the border, they did it all in a few days. So that one we're going to say not true. And then down, still in number 1, it says you have to get a temporary Chinese plate and a temporary Chinese driver's license. Yes, we're going to say true. We needed the Chinese plate number constantly. We went through toll booths all the time, and you have to have it for those. And the temporary licenses, I think Ari, who did 99% of the driving, was asked for his one time at one checkpoint. But you want to have it if you need it, right? Like, it's dumb to drive without a license, so let's get one. And we got them from the same office. In video 3, we got them from the same office that we got the temporary license plate from, so it's a package deal. Anyway, get them, you need them. Moving on. Number 2, having a tour guide is mandatory. Definitely not true. We already have video number 5 showing us going through checkpoints in Xinjiang, a more restrictive region, without a guide. Video number 6 has, I think, 1 checkpoint in Gansu province without a guide, and we kept going like that all the way across China. Also, before we left Gansu province, we got our visas extended, which involves going to some branch of the police and telling them everything you're doing. And guess how many times anyone mentioned a guide in that whole process?
0.
There is a round number. Yeah. So number 2, definitely not true. Number 3, you have to have a fixed itinerary We did have to submit an itinerary to the travel agency.
We
They got
had
us
like
in.
3 or 4 fixed itineraries.
Itineraries, yeah. But we did submit one, and it was probably part of our official paperwork. I doubt the travel agency asked for one just for giggles, right? I'm sure they submitted it to someone. We just looked at the map and decided roughly how we would drive through the country, and we made an itinerary document based on that. It was very helpful when we applied for our visa extensions. We did that more or less as soon as we were out of Xinjiang. And before we had strayed from our itinerary at all, we were actually literally still on a city mentioned. We were in a city mentioned on our original itinerary. We showed them how many days behind we were on it because of the New Year holiday and then because of our breakdown, and they extended our visas based on that. So it was very helpful. So I'm going to say yes, it is legally required, but we don't know how closely you actually have to stick to it. We didn't stick to ours. Yeah, and
Went as it comes.
yeah,
Actually,
and we never had anyone ask for it ever.
yeah, actually, if you remember, my sister sent me a video of that bridge, floating bridge, and it wasn't on our itinerary.
Oh no, we decided to go see the Shiziguan scenic area. That we went up into the mountains for that. Yeah, we strayed far from our itinerary. Well,
We had
a bit
lots
far
of
from it.
detours
Yeah.
from our itinerary, but
Yeah.
nobody questioned us.
Nobody cared. Yeah. Okay, next one. So this says here, I forgot that they had given us a guideline on how much the deposit would be. It says here this will amount to 70% of the current market value of the vehicle. That value to be determined by the customs authorities. So based on make, model, manufacture date, engine capacity, etc. So we had to fill out paperwork saying we had to state the value of our car. We said $2,000. It's a 23-year-old Pathfinder.
It doesn't worth anything, but that
Yeah.
was the minimum.
Yeah. So our deposit was 20,000 yuan, which is more than $2,000. But this 70% thing is not necessarily wrong. As I see it, there are 3 possibilities. One is that it's just complete BS, the 70% thing. It could be wrong. Another possibility is that it's true in what's written here is incomplete. It's true in general down to a minimum of 20,000 yuan. That could also be true. But it could also be, the 70% thing could also be correct because it says there that the customs authorities of China will determine the value of your car. And so if they determined the value of our car, if they disregarded our $2,000 estimate, 20,000 yuan is it's like exactly 70% of $4,000. So they could have just determined that our car was worth 4,000. So this could be correct. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
But how they would know what's the worth for a car? It's 25, 24 years old, 22 years old.
Well, in Georgia, we wouldn't be able to sell it probably for more than 2,000. I paid 4,000 for it in 2018, and we've put a lot of miles on it since then. But it might be worth 4,000 in China. It might just be a general where they look it up somewhere. That could very well have been a number that customs came up with themselves. It's not if they came up with the number 40,000, that's insane. But 4,000, it's more than you could sell it for in Georgia, but it's not insane.
Yeah, it's luxury and high-end cars somewhere around $40,000, $35,000 dollars in China.
Yeah, by the way, everyone in China had a nicer car than ours.
Mostly are electric, isn't it? When they go to straight up China, it was weird that you don't hear that much of noise.
Yeah.
There's electric cars and just very, very quiet.
It's another world.
Yeah, it's different country, different world.
Back to this. Let's see. The deposit, still on the same thing, the deposit must be on the account of the customs authority ultimately 1 week prior to the vehicle's expected date of entry into China. False. Ours was made the day before. We had to wait an hour on the border because the border guards hadn't received the information electronically yet. It's in video number 2, but we didn't wait more than an hour. The deposit will be refunded 1 to 2 weeks after the vehicle has left China. We're not sure how long it takes the government to release the deposit. When we were getting ready to leave, our travel agency said, the travel agency we actually used, said that the government would hold it for 5 working days. They said this time is used to check if you have any outstanding fines from traffic cameras, but we didn't contact them until a couple of weeks later. A couple of weeks after we left, we asked them if they'd gotten the deposit back and sent it to us yet, and they hadn't. Their excuse was that they hadn't been able to get to the task because they were traveling, or the only person in the office who could do it was traveling, but we really don't know. So they told us 5 days. We're not sure if that was true. This guided tour agency says 1 to 2 weeks. So we don't know. Jury's out on that one.
Even one point we thought that deposit money is just gone. They're not going to refund it.
Yeah, we did think that for a while.
It took us
2 months to get it.
2 months of like constant fighting
and opening what it ultimately took was opening an account in Yuan in Georgia to get it back. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, moving on. Traffic restrictions for motorcycles. Obviously, we don't know because we didn't bring a motorcycle to China. If you're planning to go in on a bike, you can pause that. We have nothing to add. Same thing with the age limits. Neither of us are below or above any of the age limits. We have no idea. Let's see. Number 7. Now this one's interesting. It says you can get through on weekends. Now we entered on a Sunday, but this still might be true. So it says China Customs do not clear foreign vehicles on weekends or holidays. So how could this be true? And we entered China on a Sunday also be true? We'll explain. The Sunday we entered was January 26th. 2025, which was the last Sunday before the Lunar New Year holiday. And the Lunar New Year holiday in China is so long that the Chinese government has some makeup days around it. And I think the Sunday prior was one of those. I think it was an official work day. And keep in mind, I think it was at the beginning of video number 3 where we get our licenses, and we remember like when we got across the border, and Rosie and Ollie were there to meet us. I'm sorry. They were very disappointed that we couldn't go to the licensing office that day because it had taken us all day to cross the border. That was a Sunday, and so if they expected us to be able to go to the licensing office that day, that means government offices in Horgus were open on Sunday, and we're pretty sure this wasn't a regular Sunday. So this one might, from the tour agency, might actually be true. We have not disproven it. Okay. So required documents for the car, specifically for the car. This list is not going to surprise you. Of course, we needed our passports. Of course, we needed Chinese visas. There was a note on what we got that this guided tour company, would support Chinese visa applications. We didn't look into it, don't know anything about it. Driver's license from your home country. They were very clear to reiterate. They took pains to reiterate several times that they did not mean an international driver's license. They did not want an international driver's license. They wanted your national driver's license. Your vehicle registration, of course. If you were bringing someone else's car, you need a copy of that person's passport too to go along with the registration. Vehicle inspection test report. They did have a note on that one saying that if you didn't have one to contact them and they might be able to do something. So we were in Georgia. Georgia has the mandatory ones, but Georgia has 100% the highway camera enforcement of it. So the paper doesn't mean anything in Georgia. Nobody cares about the paper you get from it. So we had you had taken the car in and gotten the last inspection, and they had given you like a little certificate, but it wasn't even signed. And if I remember correctly, you took it back
and got it signed.
Got them to sign it.
Yeah.
And stamp it. Okay, yeah. So we got that one looking a little bit more official, but these are all stuff you probably have already.
But they do a car inspection there too, because you went through all the checks that the regular inspection back in Georgia does.
Oh, right. I was holding the doves. You were in there with the. They did that the day. So it's video number 3 when we get after the New Year holiday, when we go back to the second office, the one that actually issued the documents. Those guys did. They drove the car around the parking lot. They checked stuff. I totally checked out for that. I just walked the dogs around. We were with them for that.
Yes, the car was so old they didn't know how to switch it on. Use the lights.
Yeah, but they did a little inspection of it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay. Now photos. So, okay, number 1, you need a passport photo, exactly those dimensions for anyone who's going to drive. That's obviously really easy to do. You need photos of your vehicle taken from all sides. Again, easy to do. The third one tripped us up. It says if the VIN number and the engine number are not shown on your vehicle registration paper, then you need photos of those on the car.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Even the mechanic was like, what is engine number?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to show here. This is, okay, so Georgia's car registration document is actually a card that goes in your wallet, and this is the back of the card. If you start at the bottom left, I have the little pointer thing. If you start at the bottom left and work up to P5, engine identification number. Ours was blank, still is. Now, the history of this car is that it was originally sold in the US, both the speedometer, odometer, all that, they're in miles rather than kilometers. And it was probably written off, the car was probably written off by an insurance company and then bought at auction by a Georgian company who shipped it home for retail. That's very common in Georgia. We tried for days to look up the engine serial number using the VIN number. Because, of course, you have your VIN number, right? It's not even possible to have a registration document without a VIN number.
Everywhere you have to, even in the car.
Yeah. And so we couldn't find any way to look it up using our VIN number. And we checked back in with the tour company, and they said this one is mandatory, full stop.
Yeah.
So Ari had a little field trip. I put pictures in here. Yes. Didn't it take you a couple mechanics to even find somebody who would do this? Didn't the first one say you were crazy?
A couple of them said you're crazy, but then one of them, he said, if you pay me this much, I was like, I'll pay you even more. If you want, just open up the engine. You can see it. You don't need to take the engine out. You just need to take the transmission off, and it's just like that.
Oh, yeah. Wait, next, hold on. Let me go forward a couple slides. There's the front of the car.
Yeah.
There's, with the transmission out, so you could get it. And here's, so they got to it. This is the engine serial number right here. And Ari took photos of it. Yeah, VQ35 is not. That's not part of the engine.
The VQ35D is the type of engine, but rest of the numbers and
it's a serial.
The serial.
Okay. All right. So we got that, and they gave us this little table to fill out. Again, this is all easy stuff once you've looked up, once Ari has gone to the mechanic and gotten the serial number of the engine right. You know the manufacturer of your car, you know the model of your car, you know the year it was manufactured, you know that you can Google the engine capacity, registration date that's on your registration paperwork, country, color. This stuff is all easy. Once you've gotten the engine number, everything else, seating, net weight, you can Google that. Gross weight, you can estimate. Fuel type, you know. Plate number, you know. Owner's name, you know. Height, weight, and length. We didn't go measure the car, right? We just Googled it.
I think they didn't check the engine number in the border, did they?
They would have had to take the transmission out. They definitely did not take our transmission
so
out.
we could just come up with it.
We could have just made it up, yeah. But we didn't know at this point how much, like how carefully. Remember, we had watched that video with the guys on the motorcycles crossing the border from Pakistan, and they had like totally taken their motorcycles apart. And we didn't know how
serious they are with that.
How serious they would be about that, and we figured that like if we can find out the honest answer, why make one up?
Yeah.
So we were just trying to cover up all of our
2
bases.
days and somewhere around $150.
Yeah, but we know what our engine serial number is. All right.
And it is 3 VQ35TE. Yes, a super nice engine.
Okay, moving on. All right. So, required documents. They also gave us a list of 4 things for the dogs. Yes, that's Kodiak. So, the dogs were actually more complicated in terms of paperwork. So, we're going to spend a little more time on this than you would expect. If you're not interested in traveling with dogs, we've got chapter markers in the video, and you can just skip ahead to the next one. So, number 1 on this list, the first one is the teeter test. And that one you have to do before you leave home, just because of the procedure for it. So very quickly, what's a teeter test? A teeter test is a test that measures the density of rabies, and rabies teeter test measures the density of rabies antibodies in your pet's blood. So it's a measure of how rabies resistant your dog actually is. How do you get a teeter test certificate?
It has to be certified and like they cannot send it in any random lab.
To just any lab.
Yeah, they has to be certified or recognized by Chinese something.
Perfect transition to the next slide. So the tour agent sent us a PDF file with a list of approved labs. This is the second page of it. We were in Kutaisi, Georgia, which is, I think, only the 4th largest city in a very small developing country. But we managed to find a company called Merchivelli Labs, that used lab number 12 on the list right here, ViroVet Diagnostic in Germany. So we did the test from them. So we went to Merchivelli. We grabbed the tubes. We went to our vet. The vet drew the blood. We went back to Merchivelli. Merchivelli took the tubes from us. They threw a chemical in them to stabilize the blood. They air freighted them to Germany. The Germans did the test. Then the Germans emailed the test results on a very watermarked copy, so you couldn't use the electronic copy. Then they mailed a final copy to Merchivelli Labs, and Merchivelli Labs called us to come, or emailed us to come pick it up. So we did the test, and Kodiak actually failed. So he's a rescue, and at the time we'd had him about 6 months. We had taken him in for all his shots when we'd gotten him, but apparently his previous owners had never vaccinated him because the antibody level in his blood was consistent with that of a dog who's only had 1 shot. Mm-hmm. So we got him a booster, And then we had to wait 30 days between the shot and the test because apparently the test is invalid if it's done within 30 days of getting a shot, getting a rabies vaccine. So then we did the whole thing again for Kodiak. And we actually left on the trip without Kodiak's certificate. We decided that one of us would fly back from Central Asia. Remember, we were looking at like Actau or something. But we asked Merchavelli to send it to one of their branches in Georgia's capital, and they did. And then we broke down. We actually did a video on this too. We broke down on our way out of the country, and we had to go to the capital to get our car fixed, and it arrived while we were there. So we only got Kodiak's paper certificate after our misadventure in the mountains the first time we tried to leave. Now, this list of labs, we would give it to everyone who asked, except we won't, because it's not the list they had on the border when we got there.
Yeah.
This one has 2023 printed on it. This one was published in 2023. We got it in fall of 2024 from the Fully Guided Tour Agency. We went to the border in January 2025, and it was no longer the correct list. That though, we'll do a separate video of like on the border stuff. This is not the current list. The newer list was much shorter. Virobat wasn't on it. There were also a lot of other labs that weren't on it. We'll come back to that. This video is what we did before we left Georgia was get titer tests from Virobat labs in Germany. This says a digital version is not recognized by China Customs. We didn't test this. We didn't try to get through with a digital version. But the digital version that we got from Virobat in Germany was clearly engineered to not be used. This is Juno's digital certificate, and you can see the watermark. So even without testing this claim, I would assume that it's true. You do need the actual paper certificate. Okay. Number 2 is just your pet passport with the vaccination records. I've read that it has to contain at least 2 rabies vaccines. Just one is not enough. But we found that Cody needed 2 vaccines to pass his titer test anyways, so for us it was a moot point. Number 3, the dog has to be chipped so customs can read the chip. Both of ours already had standard chips. Dr. Gennady, Junie's childhood vet, he chipped Cody when we adopted him. Georgia uses the standard, international standard chips. And on the border, the lady on the Chinese border did scan them and verify. I remember I took one dog in and you took one dog in. She scanned, when I took a dog in, she scanned the dog, right?
Yeah, she scanned, but she couldn't find the chip, so she asked me to scan it. I used their reader and I couldn't find it. I thought maybe it's not working. So the last time I was like about to change to our scanner, like chip reader, but then just beeped.
Their scanner beeped.
And I showed them the number, and they were satisfied. And took like 4 or 5 minutes, and then they go.
There you go. Okay. I didn't realize that. Yeah, because I think you took Cody in. I took Junie in.
Yeah.
And Junie's was just like, and it worked on the first try. So it says here that if the dog has a non-standard chip, you can bring your own reader and use that. We brought our own reader, but we had a standard chip, so we didn't test the latter part of this statement here. And we didn't actually bring our own chip reader even specifically for China. We just thought in case it was ever an issue crossing any border, why not have it? They're cheap.
And the funny thing about that chip reader was just beeping.
And I'll make this thing shut up. Okay, number 4. The number 4 is the quarantine certificate. So it is really important. It can also stop you at the border. But as you see here underlined in red, we plan to enter China from Kazakhstan, meaning that we would need to do this stuff we would need to get the certificate in Almaty. The fully guided tour agency gave us instructions on how to get this done in Almaty, and we can share that in another video if there's interest. But it's not something that we did before we left. Really, what you need to do before you leave is just know that you need a few days in Almaty to take care of this and have that on your radar. That's all you need to do before you go. So wrapping up, let's see what do we have here. It's time. Okay, yeah. Okay. For the car, there was no dramatic moment of truth. There was just a few days of submitting documents to the other agency, the one that actually got us in while we were waiting on the border, like video number 2. There was a slight bit of documents that one or two things they asked for that this one didn't, one or two things that we had prepared probably that they didn't need. It wasn't 100% match up, but there was nothing that they asked for that we couldn't figure out there on the border. And I mean, waiting in our hotel room on the border for them to do our paperwork, by the time you actually get to the border to physically cross it, it's done. It's between the agency and the border. It's not about you. For the dogs, that was very different. For the dogs, we had, as we said, we had more work to do on the ground in Almaty, which was a fair amount of work. And then the border crossing still could have gone either way. There were issues with list items number 1, whether viral vet labs was accepted. And there were a number of issues with list item number 4, which was the quarantine certificate. But anyway, none of that was stuff we worried about before we went. But basically, the agency that you hire to get you in, they're responsible for getting your car in, but you're responsible for getting your dog in. So that if there's interest in this, we can definitely do another video on that. Fully guided tour agency. So we didn't make it out of Georgia in time to catch the last group tour of the season. We left in mid-December. And I think there was a fully guided tour that left, that crossed from Kazakhstan into China at the end of December, but we were there like late January. We missed it by weeks. So basically we figured this. Our options were either A, solo tour with the fully guided tour agency, and this was what they sent us. So $5,500 for a tour for 1 year.
For
them, yes. And then if that's not bad enough, look down here. This was the really bad part. You have to take the guide in your car. We just did not have enough room. We did 2 days with Ollie in the car. And okay, we're definitely not recommending that agency, but Ollie was not a terrible person to travel with.
Yeah,
right?
Ollie was chill.
He was chill.
He was trying to do what he can.
He did everything he could to help us.
The boss lady wasn't.
The boss lady was the worst of it, yeah. But like the 2 days being in the car with Ollie, like Ollie was not the problem.
Swear this with you?
We beep it out. Yeah, so don't. Don't make more work for me. Okay. The car with Ollie were not bad. He was a perfectly fine person to travel with. He was very, like, he was a problem solver. He wasn't, like, the problem was not him as a human being. The problem was 5 living things in a 2002 Nissan Pathfinder. So, no. So, option B, we were like, yeah, okay, option. If we can't get in to not have a guide, option B. I made a slide. This is option B.
Mongolia.
Oh no, option B, or anywhere in Central Asia. And it would have been tough to get to Mongolia.
Yeah, well, I think option B would be Kyrgyzstan.
Kyrgyzstan, we talked about going to Kyrgyzstan, yeah. So option B was basically we stay in Central Asia for the winter, try to get new Chinese visas for the spring, and go in with a group tour then. So we were, when we went to the Chinese border, we were either we get in now without a guide or not having to have a guide for the whole trip, or we wait and go in with a group. Yeah. So wrapping up, let us know if there's interest in this video. We can do more like it. All you need to do to express interest, hit the like button on this video, leave a comment saying I would like to see another video on, another DIY how-to video, subscribe. Yeah, any ideas? But we don't know if there's an audience for this. It doesn't cost us much to make it costs us nothing money-wise, but it doesn't even cost us much in terms of time to make this video. So we're happy to make them. If anybody wants to watch them, just let us know.
Yeah, then don't forget to subscribe.
Yes. All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Happy travels.